Hey folks, in this video I am taking a look at and reviewing the Apple Magic keyboard for the iPad Pro. And you've seen my prior video reviewing the Smart Folio keyboard. I'll post that up here on the right. Watch that video for my thoughts on that. But in this video I'm reviewing the Magic keyboard, which I have actually grown to like quite a bit. This is the box that it comes in. So let's go through some of the talking points that Apple says for the Magic Keyboard. They recently sent out an email just sort of promoting it here. And you know, it's just a great typing experience, they say. It's got the built-in trackpad, which is true, floating cantilever design, front and back protection, pass-through charging, attaches magnetically. Yeah, all that's true. So yeah, those are sort of the talking points of it. And I have to say, one of the things that I really like about this over the Smart Folio keyboard is that you have a varying angles here that you can do. So you don't just have two angles, you can actually vary it like that, and you can even tilt it like downward that way. I find that this downward angle works really well because oftentimes I'm using the iPad on the couch while I'm lying down and just kind of have it on my chest or whatever to watch something or browse the web or something, and that angle works really well to point the screen more towards your eyes. But you have the varying angles, which is really nice. So you're not just locked into different angles. You can actually tilt this any which way you want, which is really nice, and it seems very sturdy. It is heavy, certainly, but they have to weigh it down, and the reason why they have to weigh it down is that when the iPad is attached on here, it is a little bit higher. So they didn't want it to topple over or fall back or anything, so they needed to kind of weigh the base down to make it a little bit heavier than what you would expect. But it tends to work pretty well, and as you can see, folds up really nicely, protects the front and the back of the iPad. And when you're holding it, it's definitely heavier than a normal case or something, but you kind of get used to it. So those are the main complaints that I hear about this, is that it's heavy and it's expensive. So I would tend to agree with that, because this also is a little bit expensive at $299. So it is kind of a premium Apple product. Now, one of the other nice things about this is the keyboard itself. It's actually a better keyboard than what's on my MacBook Pro from a couple of years ago. My MacBook Pro uses the butterfly key switches. They've now switched the new MacBook Pros and also the Magic keyboard here to scissor switches, which is the sort of older technology, but more improved than the older ones. And it just feels better to type on. I mean, when you type on this, it has a really nice sort of tactile feel, and it's just really comfortable to type on. I mean, it's not real clicky, but it's a very comfortable keyboard to type on, and again, it's even a better keyboard to type on than my MacBook Pro from a few years ago. It does have the trackpad, so you can actually open things here using the trackpad. You can kind of see the little cursor there, so I can open up apps if I want to, YouTube or whatever, go into an app all without touching the screen, and then I can go back to the home page by using 3 fingers and swiping up. If I use 3 fingers slowly, I can also bring up all the open apps that I have as well, and then go back to the home screen, swipe left and right, stuff like that. This also works when browsing the web, so that works pretty well if you don't want to touch your screen a lot. This is also a backlit keyboard, so let me turn the lights off here. You can kind of see that. Okay, hopefully you can kind of see the keyboard is backlit here. And the nice thing about this backlit keyboard is if you're watching something passively and you're not actively using the keyboard backlight will actually automatically go off just to save battery life. And that, I think, goes off after like 30 seconds or something like that automatically if you just don't touch it. So that's a nice feature as well. Let me turn the light back on. Now, one of the negatives about the Apple Magic keyboard is that you can't fold it back to use it like in a book mode. This doesn't, fold back like at all. But what you're supposed to do with this is when you want to use it in a book mode, you're supposed to just grab it and just take it out because it's magnetic. You just take the iPad out, and then you can, read it like this. Go into your Kindle app or Pocket or even browse the web or whatever, and just hold it like this. Like for instance, here I'm on Instagram. Just hold it and do it like this. And one of the things that I'm finding is that this is kind of nice. The iPad is super light when you're just holding it like this. in a naked mode without any case or anything. So I really find that like when I'm reading or something, I have no problem doing that. And then the Apple Magic Keyboard kind of becomes as like the base that you return it to when you're done. So that's actually kind of nice. And again, you know, this is perfectly comfortable to just hold in your hand and read even with one hand. And this is the 11-inch iPad Pro. For me, the 12.9-inch one is a little bit too big and maybe a little bit heavier. But this works really well with the 11-inch iPad Pro. And one negative though, if you're using it this way, is that the back isn't protected. So if you set it down on something or whatever, or if you're rough with it, you could potentially scratch the back. I'm sure you could install like a skin or something on the back that would still be compatible with the magnets on the Magic Keyboard though. So if you wanted to do that, that's certainly available to you. And then to return it, it's so super easy. You just place it here and it kind of automatically, places it in the right place. It's not hard to take it on and off just because it's magnetic. So that's really nice. And another hint or tip for you that is not as intuitive as people might think is if you use the Apple Pencil and you want to draw on it without taking it out of the Magic Keyboard, you can actually turn it upside down, put it on your table like this, and this actually is a pretty good angle. So believe it or not, a lot of people have said, oh, it doesn't have like an angle that you can actually write on it with the iPad, with the pencil. I don't have the Apple Pencil with me, but this shows you that you can use it this way upside down and it works perfectly fine. And this is a perfectly good angle to use it on a table like that and draw on. And this also works quite well like if you're just sitting down and looking down on it. Like let's say you're having your morning cereal and you want to look at the news or something, you can put it like this and then just go into news, and then look at the news. So this angle works pretty well. It's kind of unintuitive. People don't usually think about turning it upside down like this, but that works quite well. Now this doesn't use Bluetooth or anything. It actually attaches through the smart connector on the back of the iPad. So that's kind of nice as well. Now because it's a keyboard and a trackpad and also it's backlit, it does take a little bit of the battery life away from the iPad, but not much. But the battery will go down a little bit faster if you're using it a lot. And one of the nice things is because the way that the iPad attaches to the Magic Keyboard is you have a pass-through USB-C charger here too, so you can charge it on either side. You can charge it there, or you can still use the original USB-C charger on that side as well. So all in all, I really have to say I really do like the Apple Magic Keyboard quite a lot. I mean, it is true, it is a little bit heavy, it is a bit expensive, and it does have a few negatives that you should be aware of, going into it with your eyes wide open, so to speak. But it's something that I actually am ending up really liking. And again, one of the main things for me is I really like the varying angles here that you can do quite a bit, even pointing it downward like that, as I mentioned before. In terms of the sort of build quality, it feels very sturdy. There's no flexing in this base at all in the bottom part, the keyboard part. Like if you try to bend it or flex it, it doesn't feel cheapy, it doesn't bend or flex. It feels really sturdy in that respect. Again, the keyboard is really a joy to type on. It's a great feeling keyboard. The trackpad is a little bit small, so you have to get used to that. It doesn't compare in terms of size to like a MacBook Pro trackpad or something like that, but it is certainly usable for, on an iPad. The only other thing is in terms of the build quality on the outer surface, it's kind of got that sort of matte silicone, build to it. And I would have maybe preferred a protein leather or something, especially at this price point of $300, because I have seen that this sort of finish doesn't wear that well. I'm not sure if Apple made improvements over their prior cases with this finish. Maybe they have, but it tends to fingerprint really easily, and then also over time when it wears out, it starts getting shiny in places and wearing and stuff like that, and it just feels generally a little bit sort of cheapy and rubbery on the outside, although it probably does provide a good protection. Again, I probably would have preferred maybe like something like a fake protein leather or something like that, or maybe have a choice. But all in all, that's just a minor quibble. It does feel quite sturdy and does seem to protect the iPad fairly well, although you can see on the edges are open, so the edges aren't really protected, although there is a little bit of a overlap there. So if it, for instance, if you maybe bump something here, or even maybe drop it, the case will probably take the brunt of that, so it does have that protection. And then another tip for you that I have learned just in using this is when you open it, sometimes when you first get it, if it's sitting down like this, you don't know how to open it. Like, in other words, there's a right way to open it. One is, the keyboard side, and one is the screen side. So the tip I have, and this pretty much makes sense because you've got the Apple logo on this side. So you just want to make sure the Apple logo is up, and also the camera cutout is up. And that's how you know it's right side up, and then you can just grab it and open it. Now, when you open it, it is a little bit sort of finicky to open. It does take two hands. You can't just open it with one hand. Not easy to do. And you almost sometimes have to even use your fingernail to get underneath the base here. But once you do, you just open it like that, and it just opens right up. And it seems, again, very sturdy in terms of it holding the angle and the iPad not falling or anything like that. It just seems, like a pretty sturdy mechanism in that respect. So this has been my look of the Apple Magic Keyboard. There's a lot that I haven't gone into that you can look at other videos for, like the different gestures you can do. For instance, like 2-finger swipe to move from screen to screen, or 3-finger swipe to go between open apps and stuff like that. But check it online. There's a lot of different things you can do, and there's also different hotkeys and things you can do with the keyboard too, to access on the keyboard to access different functions as well. So thanks for watching. This has been my look at the Apple Magic Keyboard. For pricing and availability, see the description field, and for community and discussion, I will be hanging out in the comments field. See you in my next video.